shelter, they give you like 30 days, not 30 days, 90 days in order to find like a living situation when you're in a homeless shelter. If they expand that 90 days to like maybe 6 months or a year, give them more time. And then have these kids or these families not living in a homeless shelter and living like a permanent home. And it's like, even some of these like HGC co-ops, they're available for purchase. If the city can help purchase a unit for these people in the shelter so they have a permanent home to stay, how many people out of the shelter system would clear out? How much money are they spending keeping people in a shelter versus putting them in permanent housing? It has to be cheaper.
Right, absolutely. And the other thing that, in that same vein, that I think is happening is they're building a lot of new housing under the ruse of affordable housing, getting a lot of money from developers. The politicians are profiting a ton, and they're, checking a box of like, hey, look, everybody, we're building this new thing. Meanwhile, there's all these units, and then there's warehouse units.
Oh, so that's you brought up warehouses. This is another thing. So remember when I told you about the DHCR and the landlords not registering their buildings for rent stabilized?
Very beginning.
So because they're not registering it, according to the city, it shows up that it's not there. So those rent stabilized apartments aren't there because the landlords aren't registering it. And if they were to register it, you would see that there's a lot more available apartments.
Wow. I always talk about how there's about 60,000 units.
I think it's more than that.
That's what's reported.
Yeah, I think it's actually more than that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you also think about like some of these buildings that are fighting to own their building, the landlord's warehousing these apartments, right?
Right.
Nobody's living in that apartment. So that apartment is experiencing so much wear and tear. What other people aren't thinking is, let's say there's an empty unit on the top floor, right? There's a leak in the roof. No one's going into that unit and checking it. Now that leak is going into the apartment below it that is occupied.
Right.
But no one's going to go fix it. What are you going to call the city? Right. The city won't be able to access that apartment without the landlord. If the landlord doesn't give them access, the apartment still stays empty. That leak still keeps happening. That person that lives below there still has to deal with the damage that's not going to be fixed. They can fix their unit, but they still need to fix the unit that's empty above them.
And they won't because it's not there.
No, it's not there.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just like an endless cycle. And it's like, you can fine the landlord, but with the fines, they're not doing anything with the fines.
The fines don't affect them.
They don't do anything.
They either don't pay them, or it's cheaper for them to pay them than to do anything else.
I had to tell someone that they're like, oh, you can just call the city and report the empty units. It's like, you can report it, but the city can't go in there without access. They get access from the landlord. If the landlord doesn't give them access, they just fine the landlord, and that's it. The landlord's okay, I'll take the fine. And then they write off whatever that is on their taxes, and then like, good to go.
Yep. I think that really is the key to building more affordable housing is these warehouse units.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be there. I made a video talking about how many there are, and all the comments are like, well, then why don't we just use it? Like, why don't they just fix them and use them? Because it is that common sense. It's just like, well, duh.
I know.
But then it's like, nah, the city they're not really on our side. The laws are not on our side.
No.
It suits landlords, but also developers who, it's really not the landlord's city anymore. It's the developers who are running this right now.
Yeah.
These big, expensive projects that the politicians are approving and then getting tons of money on. People talk a lot about the mayor candidates.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are really, you can see, like, they're not for tenants because they're in the pockets of developers.
Yeah.
That's the one that always gets me, because it's like, wow, whoever wins is kind of just the favorite of the developers. That's what they're saying about Cuomo.
Yeah.
He's the one who kind of got us here with the tenants.
This is what I was talking to somebody about, like the candidates. In the Bronx, and I'm sorry for stereotyping the Bronx, but in the Bronx, a lot of times they vote on who they know.